करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
In the book Vedanta Treatise, for those who are not aware, Vedanta Treatise is a seminal book authored by Swami Parthasarathi, which contains sort of A to Z of the entire Vedanta philosophy. I think in the second chapter, Swamiji is introducing the concept of mental temperaments. So he is talking about the state of a mind of persons with reference to three distinct ways or distinct categories. So he explains this concept from the point of view of an example involving a cone. See here, you see that there are three kinds of equilibrium that it is talking about. Equilibrium is a state of mind when it is stable, when it is poised. So there are three kinds of equilibrium that are discussed here. Obviously, equilibrium is only one. The other two are given to say that it is not really equilibrium. So first he talks about a state of a mind of a person who is in a restless equilibrium. Restless equilibrium is when you can imagine a cone which is placed on its vertex. So as it were, it is standing upside down. So the cone cannot stand upside down. It has to fall this side or that side. If you want to keep the cone standing in this position, then you need to support the cone using a lot of supports. You can place various objects around it or sticks that are there to support the cone so that it is standing like that. But even if in one side a couple of supports are removed, the tendency is that it will fall that side. So actually it is not really an equilibrium, it is very restless. So a person sometimes has this type of a mental mindset, his temperament is like that in order for it to be somewhat stable and okay, you need a lot of support around that person. By himself, he is always not going to be stable. So just to convert it into example form, many things in the world have to be in perfect order for that person to be sort of okay. Let's say if the electricity goes off for 5 minutes, he cannot handle it. You cannot face that person. He is very agitated about it. Or one day if the driver doesn't come or the servant in the house doesn't come, that he cannot handle. So the friends have to be all right for emotions. The electricity has to be there. The persons in the house must have a proper temperament for him to communicate. All the things around him, be it people, be it things, be it various other things, has to be in proper order for him to remain stable, let us say most of the times. So this type of equilibrium is called as a restless equilibrium. A slightly better state than this is the next state, which is called as imperfect equilibrium. Imperfect equilibrium can be equated to the same cone lying on its lateral surface, this side. So this cone lying on its side is somewhat better, as I said, and it is okay when it is lying by itself. But if a person comes and taps the cone like this, or a hard wind blows, or whatever is the disturbance that is caused, this cone then keeps on oscillating or rotating. It needs some external agent to cause a disturbance, and then it is agitated. And this disturbance of the cone can last for few minutes to few hours to few weeks when we equate this to the state of a mind of a person. So this person He's also by and large dependent definitely on the world, but he's somewhat, as I said, okay and better than the previous category of a person. But if somebody were to disturb his mind, some external factor were to disturb his mind, then the mind is extremely unstable or agitated. And it swings from one end to the other end. Sometimes slow, sometimes fast, but there is agitation. And for that person to come to the normalcy, it may take time. And that time may not be prescribed. Depending on the cause of the disturbance and depending on the intensity of the disturbance, it can last for months, weeks, or days, or even hours together. It's fine. But the point is, it is seemingly stable, but it is not stable. It is susceptible to a lot of agitations. A person is going along the street, let us say, some unconnected person who he doesn't know also, who is a stranger, and we do not know what state of mind that person is, whether he is really provoking or he is a mad person. He is calling this person as a donkey. He shouts at him as a donkey. So immediately this person gets furious about it and agitated about it. And what happens is that most of the people at this state of mind react immediately and say, what do they say? They say, you are a monkey or something like that. Because that causes an immediate action and reaction. So what he said is an action and what you give back as a reaction. So these persons are outwardly, they may be looking strong also, but internally that is not matched with the mental strength. That is why others can play with it. Others can easily agitate it, and it becomes fun if you are at a height to watch that person. Obviously, we are not happy when other person is agitated, but when you look at it objectively, it is like watching a movie. Exactly like that, it happens. In fact, at this stage, I mean, Swamiji always gives a sort of not a solution, but a way to deal with it. He says, take this example of a person calling you a donkey and you calling him back as a monkey immediately. So afterwards, when all the things are over, later in the day, you examine what has happened is that when you immediately react and answer back to the other person as you are a monkey or something, the psychological implication is that yes, you called me donkey and I accept I am donkey, but you are a monkey. This is what you are actually saying. By reacting to that in that particular way, psychologically, you are assuming yourself to be what you are called as. If you are able to listen through one ear and leave it through the other ear and just maintain a silence and walk just as a dog is barking and the elephant is walking, like that it is. If you are able to reach somewhat a matured state like that, it is not going to affect you. In fact, a little bit higher stage than that is, Shakespeare says in Polonius' advice, be open to all censure, but few give their voice to very few. I'm not quoting it properly, but that's what it means. If anybody says anything to you also, if you are an objective person, if you are a person who is on the path of spiritual evolution, you will be open to listening to what they say. We are not saying that you must accept or reject. Be open to listen to what they say. You can use it to examine yourself. If it does not apply, you need not accept also. So he says, if a person says, because you may not be able to watch yourself all the time, right? If you use somebody else as a help for you, if somebody else says you are a donkey, genuinely check if you have grown long ears and you have a tail. If it is not there, you are not that. Why are you bothered? Why are you bothered? So deep within, what you value yourself also counts in this actually. So for this state to occur, obviously it is going to take a lot of maturity. But remember this, it's a very practical lesson, very valuable lesson, that you have to suffer the consequences only when you accept what is given, not because somebody else gives. Remember this. You have to suffer not because when other person is giving. You have to suffer only when you are taking it. It is other person's prerogative to give. To accept it or reject it is your prerogative. If a person gives you gift, it is his prerogative. It is up to you to say yes, thank you, or no, thank you. It is your prerogative. If you don't accept the gift, what happens is that it goes back to him automatically. It is exactly the same way that you deal with that person. Instead of gift, he is giving you something else. Gali is giving. That's all. So, if we raise our level to that extent, the mind will not oscillate. But most people in that state, which is a middle state where they are prone to action, when you are prone to action, you are prone to reaction also. That reactionary mind comes out. When the reactionary mind comes out, what happens is that it is susceptible to agitation. And for that agitation to subside by itself, obviously time is a factor for everything. It will take, based on, as I said, the intensity of it. So, Lord Buddha was walking along the street and his disciples were following him. And as in the case of any age and any Mahatma, there were people who were not very comfortable either with that person or his ideology or whatever, his philosophy, for some reason or the other, or it could be any other petty reason also, that a person was abusing Lord Buddha. And all the disciples were very offended, and rightly so. Obviously, a disciple will be offended if the master is abused. And they were actually sort of ready to finish off that person, but only if the master gives a signal. But Buddha was walking along as though he had not heard anything. So in the night, probably when there was a satsang, the students were still agitated. And they asked as a clarification, sir, first of all, did you hear what happened in the afternoon? He said, what? No, somebody was shouting at you. Oh, yeah, I heard it. What is the big deal about it? So why you did not give us any permission? We would have put him in his place. We would have finished him off. So Lord Buddha calmly said the same thing. It is his prerogative to give. And I did not accept it. Probably you people accepted it, and that's why you are suffering till now. You are carrying it till now. So it is the question of taming that reactionary mind. That leads us to the highest state of mental temperament, which is called as perfect equilibrium. This is in fact equilibrium. It is equivalent to that same cone resting on its base. That's how it should be. The cone, where it's resting on its base, cannot be disturbed. However great the wind blows, or however whatever be this thing, you cannot topple that cone. It stands straight. So this is a state of mind where it is always stable. He quotes a line from Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr. For him in vain the envious seasons roll, who bear eternal summer in his soul. In England and maybe other countries nearer to the poles, they look forward to summer because it's throughout very windy or chilly, and or rain is there all the time. So they look forward to sunlight and summer. So the seasons will roll, seasons will change, but the seasons are envious of this person because they are saying that we are changing, we the seasons are changing, but this person is not changing. So for him in vain means it's a waste that they are changing. But this person does not get affected by the seasons at all. Why? Who bears eternal summer in his soul. Inside him, he is always having that summer. He is always, so you can say in a way, if you extend this example, summer refers to the light, luminosity of the self. A person who is constantly in focus of the higher aspects of life, which is essentially the self, nothing in the world can disturb him. It will constantly keep changing around him. Now, this is the base for what we will understand today as the Gunas. Obviously, this is not exactly talking about Sattva, Rajas and Tamas Gunas, but it can be somewhat mapped into it. The three mental temperaments as given in Vedantic scriptures is one of the outstanding contributions of Vedanta to the whole world, particularly Bhagavad Gita. That the mind also can be classified into these textures is outstanding thought. And we do find it in some of the Western literature indicated also. Some are directly because they have come in contact with Bhagavad Gita, and others, as we said, a few days back in some context, we talked about the poem, The Ancient Mariner. So here is a person who goes on a voyage in the ship, and in that voyage in the ocean, he goes through various experiences. It was a very pleasant experience in the beginning, and all this people around him and the sailors, everybody were very happy and enjoying, and he was having a very great fun, admiring everything in the ocean. And then for whatever reason, what happened was this mariner took his crossbow and shot an albatross. Albatross is a very huge sea bird, very soft bird. Actually, it is a friend of the ship. It usually flies with the ship, and its wingspan is very huge. So that which was there, suddenly he shot it with a crossbow. For whatever reason, he was extremely, but the consequences of that action is that it had a very negative impact on his journey, and it affected the whole crew there, and it affected the whole ship there. There was no water for them, and they were expecting rains that did not come, and everybody was suffering so much, and all the people knew it was all because of this person shooting this albatross. So they put that albatross on his neck, and from there only we get this expression in the English, that albatross on your neck. That means you are as though carrying your karma on your thing that is going to weigh heavy on you, and that is a criminal act that he did. And then what happens is that slowly he realizes his mistake, and then there is a beautiful transformation in his personality. A sort of a maturity comes in, because earlier some sort of hatred had come into his personality. He hated the sea creatures that were the slimy creatures on the slimy sea, like that he comments, and that is when he also shoots this albatross. Now he begins to admire the ocean, admires the nature, admires all the creatures that are there, and when his mental climate changes, the external climate also changes, and rain comes, and everybody is happy, and the journey becomes more easy and conducive and comfortable. Then it becomes a successful journey. And then they reach the shore safely. So this mariner who goes through the voyage in the sea wants to narrate his voyage to somebody now. Narrates his experience to somebody now. So what happens is there are three people who are going towards some party, maybe a church or somewhere where there is a wedding happening. Lot of funfair and festivities and celebration and music and dance, everything is there, and these three people are going. So this ancient mariner leaves the first person, leaves the second person, catches hold of the third person. And then he begins to narrate his journey. So he begins by saying, there was a ship, quoth he. There was a ship. He was starting to say from the beginning that there was a ship. But the other person is not willing to listen. He says, leave me, I have something to attend. And he is now as though, not interested in what he has to say. But the mariner is very objective. He leaves the hand. He leaves the hand, but what happens is that he catches that person with his glittering eye. So then the poet says, like a 3-year-old child, that person is transfixed upon him and he is saying, he cannot go and he has to stand and listen to this person. Meaning, he is powerfully attracted by this person, though he was originally going to the celebration. Now he is transfixed by this person and is sort of there to listen to what this person says and ready to take in the knowledge. So here is a very clear indication of the 3 gunas, that obviously the voyage of the sea represents the voyage of life. The sea represents the samsara, and in the samsara you go through all experiences, up and down, everything. And then what happens is that when your mind, which is responsible for all your experiences, when it is full of hatred and negativity, there you see very unconducive things happening for you all around, and everything is very bad and negative about it. And you are not to be loved at all by the world back, and everybody despises you, and you carry the albatross on your back. When the mental climate changes, obviously, it is through knowledge and other thing. When it changes, you see the whole world as a very beautiful creation. Your whole journey is enjoyable. It is very smooth. And finally, he culminates in the harbor and reaches the shore. That means you culminate your journey in the hard shore of self-realization also. Having come there, you want to really convey the message to the seekers in the world. And who are the seekers who are ready to take in the knowledge? The 3 persons here very clearly indicate the 3 types of people: the tamasic, the rajasic, and the sattvic kind of people in general. We can equate that. All are sort of going towards the world only. The first 2, you cannot do anything to them. They are let alone. The 3rd person is the sattvic person who is ready for this knowledge. So this person as a guru catches, or a master, he catches and he wants to narrate. And then what happens? Even as that person is, one aspect of him is wanting to enjoy the world, he really cannot do so with full heart now, because the real personality in him, the sattva in him, has sort of blossomed and he wants to listen to this one. That means, even as he is in the world now, he is going to be in a different path altogether. So, like this and various other indications are there in the West also. We really do not know about this poem and what is the background of this author, or whether he came in contact with Vedantic scripture or whether it was his original thinking. Honestly, we do not know. But it is indicated. But the way in which it is explained in Vedanta, the way in which to the depth it goes and puts it in a threadbare analysis for all of us, that probably we cannot see in the Western literature. And as I said, Bhagavad Gita is the greatest contributor in this, that there is a chapter dedicated to this. The Bhagavad Gita can be divided into 3 sets of 6 chapters each. The first 6 talks about individual. So if you take the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, in one way you can say the first 6 talks about Tvam, the individual. The second 6 talks about the Tat. The third 6 talks about the relationship that you are that. So essential Jnana Kanda. So in another way, people also, great masters interpret as first 6 is Karma Shattam, which is talking mainly about karma. The second 6 talks mainly about bhakti. And the third 6 mainly talk about jnana and then the practical aspects of jnana. Though it is not completely black and white like that, there you will find all the aspects covered in all the chapters also. By and large, you will find Karma Yoga and 4th chapter, everything talk about Yajna. All those things comes in the first 6. And the glory of the Lord and Vibhuti Yoga and Vishwarupa Darshana all comes in the middle 6. And then 13th chapter onwards, it talks about the highest level of Upanishadic level. So, Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga is the 13th chapter. Prakriti and Purusha are dealt there. And Prakriti is taken and elaborated in 14th chapter. Purusha is taken and elaborated in 15th chapter. And 15th is the culmination. So 14th chapter, which talks about Prakriti or matter, is titled as Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga means the yoga of distinction of 3 gunas. And what are the three gunas? The three gunas, as most of you know, are called as sattva, rajas, and tamas. The three gunas are called as all of us, irrespective of wherever we are, whatever our nature is, whether we are Indian man or woman or any category or any caste or anything that we belong to, all of us are essentially made up of the three gunas. Gunas are here called as mental textures. See, texture means, suppose you, for example, if you take a cloth, it is made up of different textures, and it can be any classification, any number of classifications, but by and large, you can classify it into three, like that. For example, texture is a woolen cloth is a different texture. A silk cloth is a different texture. Cotton cloth is a different texture. Like that, you see, three classifications. So, human mind is also classified broadly under the three textures. And a permutation and combination of this can give you infinite qualities also. But by and large, it can be classified under these three textures. First is called as sattva. Sattva means pure. Sattva means pure means that state of mind when it is calm, when it is serene, when it is equanimous, when it is meditative, contemplative, thinking, objective, unaffected, that state of mind is called as sattva. So it is a very pure state of mind. And remember, as I said, all of us have all the three gunas. You would have experienced your sattva also. Sometimes you are very calm. You are thinking. And when the mind is calm only, remember that you can think. When the mind is agitated, at that point of time, you cannot think. This is a very common phenomenon. You would have heard this example many times in the public lectures also. That if a person is asked to walk on a big wooden plank which is kept on the floor from this end of the room to the other end of the room, let's say, you take a big room, even 50 meters, and the plank is very strong and very broad, and you are also okay. If anybody is asked to walk on it, there will be no problem. Everybody will walk. If the same plank, which is very strong and very wide, is kept on the top of the Twin Towers, which is at 110th floor, maybe 100 meters above the ground. And let us say if the doctors certify that you don't have any problem with pressure or giddiness or anything also, and the architects certify that it is well placed, but still, how many will dare to walk at that height? It is difficult. It is not possible. Why? Because there is an inherent fear that comes if I fall. So what if I fall is when your emotion takes over your personality and the mind is agitated about it. Once the mind is disturbed like this, you cannot think properly. If you cannot think properly, you cannot act properly. This is the equation. So mind, if it cannot be calm, the intellect cannot think. That's what we covered a couple of classes in the self-control also. Peace and intellect promote each other. That's how it is. So that state of mind, when it is calm, automatically your intellect is brought to think. And this is very, very clear in the case of Arjuna, that when his mind became extremely affected by emotions in the first chapter, he obviously could not think and his body could not act. He dropped the bow and arrow. So that state of mind which is very calm is called as sattva. It is characterized by purity. You will not, you really wish well for others. Your mind is full of love. All those things are there. The second category of the mind is called as rajas. Rajas means passionate. That mind which is very action oriented. Once there is a lot of desire, passion, automatically the mind prompts you to do action. And automatically that mind is also stressed and agitated about it because it is excited about that action, excited about that desire. Whenever there is excitement, there will be, as we said a few minutes before, there will be a tendency of this action and reaction. Once that action and reaction is there, it is it is bound to be agitated, it is bound to be stressed, it is, so that person has sort of, is like running like a chicken without head. There is no focus, there is no real, but he has no time for anything. He has to do this, he has to do that, without focus, but doing something or the other. He cannot, if such a person, let's say, okay, even to sit in a class like this, which is talking about these gunas or whatever, the main theme is Vedanta here, some amount of sattva, if it is there in us, only even we can sit here without being egoistic about it. We can pat our backs. That must be there in order to sustainably sit. One day somebody can come and sit here because a friend has forced him to sit, or it can be a different experience. We are not talking about it. A person who is sustainably attending a class, if some amount of sattva is there, he will be able to relate to this. But if a rajasic person, if you want to sit, if you ask him to sit, if the class is for 1 hour, maybe 15-20 minutes he will sit. After half an hour, he will be looking here or there, or he'll be thinking of what else to do, what is the next thing to do. All these thoughts which are constantly running in him will force him. So once the thought is forcing you like that, the body becomes equally action oriented. It will move here or there. It cannot sit in a place, obviously. So that person, so body is nothing but extension of that mind only. He is a person who is action oriented, who is very desire ridden, who goes all out into the world to fulfill it. So greed, passion and various other things are associated with rajas. Stress and strain is also associated with rajas. The third category is the worst category of the mind. This is called as tamas. Tamas is a ignorance. Tamas is darkness. The state of mind when it is extremely inactive, extremely dull, feeling very sleepy. This is also a state of mind. Obviously, we are not talking about a person who is completely sleeping. There we can say he is enveloped by tamas completely. That is sort of a, what to say, 100% tamas, which is not, we are not talking about the state of mind there, because mind itself is not there. Okay. We are talking about a person who is awake, but the mind is extremely dull, so he feels sleepy. He feels extremely lethargic, inertia, inactive, not wanting to do anything, not wanting to even feel emotion. Not wanting to feel means he is emotionless, like a stone. So in general, you can even categorize. I mean, if you want to fit into the map, I'm saying plants, animals, and humans means plant doesn't have that emotions. Animals is extremely passionate and caught up in the emotions. A human being is designed to control his emotions. So tamas is a state where it is extremely heedless, reckless, not caring. I don't care, that sort of an attitude. This is called as tamas. And as I said, all of us have all the three gunas, and all the three gunas have to coexist. All the three gunas have to coexist till you become guna atita, which is the state of self-realization. 14th chapter talks about the three gunas and finally culminates and ends with Arjuna asking, who is a guna atita? Guna atita means a person who has crossed the gunas, who is a realized person. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa explains this beautifully with a story. He says, a person is walking to his destination, but in between a forest comes and that person has to walk through the forest. In the forest, what happens is that he comes in contact with three dacoits or robbers, and they catch him. They all obviously want to steal everything from him. One person says, let us kill him. Then we can take everything out of him. Okay. The second person says, we are interested definitely in his possessions and everything. Let us take everything from him and let him not complain about us. We will tie him here and we will go away. Then they do it. After they go, the third dacoit comes running to him. He unties the knot and he quickly tells him, I'll lead you up to this point. This is the highway. Then you can go to your destination. and he returns back to his friends, his other two dacoits. So this person is saying, why don't you also come with me? You seem to be a good person. This person says, I cannot come. I have to be with the other two only because we three have to coexist here. And my job is to somewhat make the person feel comfortable and show him the right path. But my place is actually in the forest with these two people only. So obviously now it is very clear as to what these three people represent, three dacoits represent. That the first dacoit is the tamas in us, which actually destroys the personality completely. The second is also very painful and binding, but it is very sort of passionate about what it really is wanting to procure. And both these things are coming from the negative aspect of our personality. I mean, if today its time is not there, we'll take up in the next class. In the 14th chapter, is talking about how the sattva guna in itself develops with the knowledge only, obviously. And that's a very interesting statement that comes, a very great food for thought. Sattva, at one place he says, is the effect, and in another place he says is the cause. If you understand those two verses, it gives a great insight as to how we must promote sattva. So the third person here is the sattvic guna, and this person has to stay with the other two people only, meaning all the three gunas have to coexist. That is why in Ramayana also the symbolism is, but what this dacoit does is that he frees you, helps you to go in the right path. In Ramayana also, the three brothers of Lanka, Vibhishna, Kumbhakarna and Ravana, have to coexist for the existence of Lanka intact. Obviously, Ravana represents the Rajas here. You take life of Ravana, he has a force, he has a pace in everything. Somebody says, go and do tapas, he will do that. Somebody says, go and do Sita, bring Sita, he will do that. He is extremely passionate about it. So generally, Ravana represents Rajas. Kumbhakarna represents Tamas. He has elements of wisdom also in him, but he is mostly a dull personality, sleeping most of the time. And then you have Vibhishna. Vibhishna is obviously the sattvic personality. He is calm under all circumstances. He is focused towards the self, which is Rama. But all the three brothers have to be always there. And it is interesting if you take the analogy further. Towards the end of Ramayana, what happens is that Ravana and Kumbhakarna are going to be annihilated. Vibhishna is not annihilated. Vibhishana crosses over and surrenders to Rama. So if you extend that example, Rama represents the supreme reality or the self. As you evolve further and further, finally Rajas and Tamas in you will be annihilated. Sattva, what happens? Sattva cannot sustain by itself. So Sattva transcends to what you may call as trans-sattva. Just as we said, absolute deep sleep can be equated, or absolute unconscious state can be equated to sort of a pure tamas. Absolute state of self-realization is also indicated as Shuddha Sattva. Shuddha Sattva is the term that is used, but Sattva cannot, Sattva is also a Prakritic Guna. It is also a Guna born of Maya only. So it cannot sustain by itself. It has to coexist with Rajas and Tamas. But in the time of self-realization, so just for argument's sake, 99% Sattva, 0.5% Tamas, 0.5% Rajas is there to make up, but still the individuality is there. When the individuality is transcended and when you reach the self, 99 does not become 100, 99 becomes infinite. So that is when the Sattva also is merged into the self. So all the three gunas have to coexist. This is the first law. Second thing is, as we said, you can pair Rajas and Tamas in one way that they are coming out of the impure aspect of your personality, the vasanas, the base tendencies, the desires. When it is deep hidden within us, under the ground, it is tamas. When it is manifest and coming out in a big way, you can say that is rajas. So they are going to make you more and more worldly. On the other hand, sattva is something which is going to elevate you. So in that sense, these two can be clubbed together, and sattva can be a different guna from these two. And the third point about the three gunas is that if mind can be classified into the three gunas, each and every aspect of the universe being the expression of the mind has also necessarily to follow this condition that they also can be classified into sattva, rajas and tamas. Every aspect, when I say the gross aspects of the world also can be generally classified into this. Why talk about even the world? Even there are places where even the devatas are being talked about as into these categories. And it's very interesting. This has to be very carefully understood also. The Puranas, the 18 big Puranas, which essentially talk about the self, are also classified into these three gunas. That's why I said it should be carefully understood. It is not that certain Puranas are tamasic or certain Puranas are rajasic in nature. Every Purana talks about the ultimate self only, in different forms, in different ways. So, certain Puranas are, in the 18 6 Puranas are classified as Brahma Puranas, certain Puranas are classified as Vishnu Puranas, certain Puranas are classified into Shiva Puranas. Vishnu Purana is classified under Sattvic category, Brahma Purana is classified under Rajasic category, and Shiva Purana is classified under Tamasic category. This has nothing to do with, please very, very carefully understand, nothing to do with classifying Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara as Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Then we are defeating the very foundation of Vedanta. Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara represent the supreme reality which is beyond the gunas. So obviously, but these are the ways by which certain Puranikas also explain, which is not correct. They are talking about Brahma in his sattvic state of mind gave out certain Puranas. Brahma in his rajasic state of mind gave out certain Puranas, and in his tamasic state of mind. These are also maybe there, and it needs further research and explanation from a proper person to understand what it is. But never can you classify the supreme self under gunas. That is why when we talk about Sa Guna Brahman also, some people are having this misconception that guna there represents these gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. It is not so. When you talk about Sa Guna Brahman, that is Brahman with gunas, it is not talking about this gunas. This gunas belong to Maya or Prakriti. This gunas does not belong to self or Purusha. It does not belong to. So, if a person is talking about Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara under these gunas, he really does not know what he is talking. Big zero only. Now, what I am trying to say is, the classification is there everywhere. You take a plant like a tulasi plant or something can be easily identified as sattvic, the effect of its qualities, the nature of its existence itself. Then there are certain plants which are having wild flowers, expression in a very great color and this and that, very easy to identify. Certain plants are very, full of thorns and shrubs, and maybe it gives you poison. I'm just extending it to understand the nature of it. It can be. See, ocean is one, right? There is only one ocean, but for convenience, we classify the ocean into Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, and various other things. But if you look at the water bodies like that, you can easily identify. Pacific, the name itself suggests how calm it is, and people who have explored that. But Atlantic Ocean is not like that. If you look into the Discovery Channel and see the way in which the cyclones and other things that are happening as undercurrent within the ocean also. So the ocean is different when it is in the Pacific side, it is different when it is in the Atlantic side. Obviously, if you want to just to map it, you can say Sattvic and Rajasic there. And what do you call something like a Dead Sea, which is full of salt, which is excessively salty. I mean, it has to come under the classification of Tamas. Rivers can be classified. Their soil nature is different. Their taste is different. Like that it is. Animals can be classified. Plants can be classified. So classification is there throughout the nature. Classification is there in the mind level also. So this is the third aspect. Fourth is, we club Rajas and Tamas in one way. We are not clubbing, but in another way, Sattva and Tamas can be viewed together. How they can be viewed together is, Sattva and Tamas mimic each other. Mimic each other means in terms of expression, sattva and tamas look alike, but they are poles apart. They are diametrically opposite. That is why here also you see that in the chart, we have given sattva as trans-action and tamas as inaction. A fan which is rotating at a very high speed may appear stationary as not moving, but you know that it's moving in full speed. So a fan that is moving in full speed is sattva. A fan which is not moving at all is tamas. A fan which is moving in a slow speed or in a broken way, producing sound, where you can clearly identify the wings, that is rajas, if you want to map it, if you want to complete the example. So sattva and tamas mimic each other. A person in a high state of meditation who is oblivious to what is happening in the world in an extreme state of consciousness, and a person who is sleeping, even when if a bomb is going to fall there and he is unaware of it, both look alike, both look undisturbed, but there is a world of difference. In fact, even in sleep, when if there is a difference, when predominantly when a sattvic person, rajasic person and a tamasic person sleeps. A tamasic person's sleep is extremely deep sleep. You cannot disturb him, and sometimes you envy that person how he sleeps. You can shake him also, he will not get up. Like that it is. Somebody, a TV with full volume can be there and he will be snoring very peacefully. Sometimes you will find certain people sleeping on the, sometimes, I mean, you have to feel for them really. Bricks or stones are being carried on the truck, and after extreme hard work of maybe loading it as the truck is going, they are sleeping on the stones which is uneven, but you will find that they are deep sleeping. That is in a way deep sleep, not getting affected by anything, not even obviously oblivious to anything and unaware. That is the way the tamasic sleep will be there. In a way it is a blessing, and that is, see, first of all, we are not here to condemn rajas or tamas because it is again not your creation. That is also there in this world for a purpose. If tulasi's plant has a purpose, a mango tree also has a purpose. Some other flower and some other fruits in the forest also has a purpose. If a peaceful grassland has a purpose, desert has a purpose. So you are not to question as to why they are there, and you are not to condemn it or not. That is how the world is designed and created. You are not the creator, you are not the author of the Maya in which these three gunas appear, so you are not to condemn anything. You are here, we are only to understand and how we can redeem ourselves with the knowledge. That is the focus. So that type of a sleep where it is absolutely not disturbed is how a tamasic person will sleep. Rajas, very clear in identification because expression is there. A disturbed sleep, where you are tossing in the bed, where dreams will be there, and that person will be moving here and there. That is rajas, very clearly identifiable. As I said, a fan moving in full speed and fan not moving may appear alike. You may not be quickly able to identify, but when it is making sound, you can easily identify. That is a rajas. Sattvic sleep is also deep sleep without disturbance, but very alert in the sense any slightest disturbance, that is the first person to get up also. So, a deep sleeping sattvic person, for him 5 to 6 hours of sleep is enough to recoup and recover his energy. A person who has done a very hard work and by nature his tamas has to have the 10 hours of sleep for him to be awake the next day fully. So that person is blessed that he can work hard, that he can sleep hard also. And as I said, you have to envy such persons who bindas, they sleep like that. A rajasic person obviously will need 7 to 8 hours of sleep to recoup his energy, like that it is. So even sleep is classified that way. So each and every aspect of this is classified, but in the classification, tamas and sattva look alike. They appear, but they are poles apart. In cricket, if you want to take the example, a wide ball which cannot be touched by a batsman is equated to tamas because you have to bowl that ball again and it is just a waste delivery. But the batsman cannot touch. That's the point. A good length ball which beats the batsman also he cannot touch. That is sattva. A loose ball which can be easily hit is a rajasic, equal to rajas. So these three classifications is there in every aspect of life. It has to be there. Broad classification will be there. And very interestingly, time is also classified. As I said, all of us have these three qualities. When does the sattva, rajas and tamas in you manifest automatically? A person can have 10% sattva, argument sake I am saying, 10% sattva, 50% rajas, 40% tamas. All three put together is 100, okay? 10, 50, 40. That 10% of sattva this person has. Another person can have 90% of sattva, 8% rajas, 2% tamas. Let us say he's at a very high state of evolution. But for both the people, whatever sattva they have, that will automatically manifest in the early hours of the morning. Generally, you can say 2 hours before sunlight. So on average basis, 4 to 6 is given. Obviously, in India at least, there is only Indian standard time maintained. But very clearly, from Arunachal Pradesh to Gujarat, if you see, there is 2 hours of difference. And it is criminal that only one standard time is here. Because in Guwahati and all, when in summer, when the sun comes at 4 o'clock or something and the office is going to start at 10 o'clock, you have good 6 hours of sunlight where you are not really prone to work, which is not correct. It is different in Gujarat and Bombay. And people who are now maybe mostly from Calcutta, we should not offer any excuse because the sunrise is earlier here. So you have to make use of this early morning, which is called as Brahma Muhurta, to promote sattva. So 4 to 6, which is a short period of time, 2 hours in 24 hours is, what to say, less than 10% of the time. 8% is just what is available in which your sattva is naturally manifest. And rajas manifests along with the sun because sun promotes activities. Even the birds fly out, the ants are there, every creature, every animal, the whole world bristles into activities because sun is activating everybody. So you can say from sunrise to sunset, roughly 12 hours, you can take it as the rajasic time or the manifestation of your rajas will be there. So even a sattvic person has to do some work. Even a tamasic person has to do some work. And then the tamasic aspect of your personality manifests itself after sundown. All the base thoughts, unwanted thoughts. All that you need to do is to understand this, examine what thoughts come to you naturally. It's very sad that our lifestyle has now changed so much that most of us do not know what the sattvic time is because the getting up itself is well after sunrise. But those who have achieved greater things in life, you will find that either by accident or by whatever it is, they hit upon utilizing the sattvic time. Yeah, a great music composer of our times, who is still a legend, living as Ilayaraja of South India, who has composed more than 1,000 films in a short span. Great music. And he says in one interview that early in the morning he gets up and certain tunes and certain things come automatically for him in his field. I know of a person who is a software engineer. Nobody taught him Vedanta, nobody knows, but somehow early morning he gets up and 7 o'clock is in the office. He feels very calm and that is the time his most productive things come out. And he writes his computer programs at that point of time. Nobody has taught him this. And I'm not automatically saying that a person who gets up early in the morning has to be a great intellectual or something. The point is, whatever sattva you have has to manifest at that point of time. But our prime time in TV is now 11 o'clock and people go to bed after having sometimes dinner 12 o'clock, and where is the chance for them to get up at early in the morning? Our lifestyle has changed. Even in our villages, where they still have this practice that they must put early in the morning a rangoli in front of the house. It has various implications and it's considered very auspicious also, very holy. Then only Lakshmi will come in. Like that is the belief. And still they practice it. But now what happens is, because of the TV serials, which continuously go from 6 o'clock to 11 o'clock, most of the, even the ladies in the house who have to watch it till the end, and when they sleep, obviously it is very difficult for them to get up early in the morning and put that rangoli. And it is they feel little shy to do it, because if others are watching it in the morning, it's not very happy scenario for them. So after 11 o'clock, they put the rangoli and then go to sleep. Like that it is happening. The lifestyle has changed. That's what I'm trying to say. And then, so Tamas, you examine your thoughts as to what comes in the night. So between couples also, there is calmness and love in the morning and lust in the evening. That is how it manifests. That is why our forefathers kept this beautiful habit of going to bed early and getting up early. And in the evening, they finished dinner early and had some satsang. You will find that katha or bhajans or something, and then you fall off to sleep there only. That's okay. You know, it's better that way, that you hear something good and then you fall off to sleep. It is a very ingeniously created system. From the individual point of view, our evolution is to move from tamas to rajas to sattva. And what is interesting is, since we are talking about time, what is there in the microcosm has to be there in the macrocosm also. So if you are able to classify the time in a day into sattva, rajas and tamas, you will be able to understand how they can classify the year also into sattva, rajas and tamas. Yugas also into sattva, rajas and tamas. And Kali Yuga falls under that category, tamasic yuga, compared to the Krita Yuga and other things like that. So it's a larger and larger circle by and large. So it is interesting that year also falls. The calculation is also interesting. 1 day of heaven equals 1 year of the earth. I'm saying it just quickly here for you to think about, but you can listen to it in a talk called Gita Jayanti, which is there in YouTube. In Gita Jayanti, because Bhagavad Gita is given in the month and we celebrate it in Margashirsha month. Interesting. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, Masanam Margashirshoham. Masanam Margashirshoham means among all the months I am Margashirsha. Margashirsha is the month between December, January. December middle to January middle. And that is considered the holiest of all months. That is where it is probably very cold, but you are asked to get up early in the morning, have a cold water bath and do the spiritual activities. And the effect in that month is multifold. Why? Because if you consider the whole year, that is the Sattvic period, Brahma Muhurta of the Devas. It's interesting. 24 hours, if you equate it to 12 months, 2 hours is equal to 1 month. And the 2 hours is just before sunrise. And sunrise is Uttarayan. So 1 month before Uttarayan has to be this Sattvic period. So year also can be classified into Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And it is this Sattva, Rajas and Tamas which is getting classified into the universal classification of what is understood as Varna Vyavastha. Varna Vyavastha is classification into Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. I'll leave you this thought for you to think about. Chapter 4 verse 13 talks about Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 4 verse 13 talks about Chatur Varnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. Tasya Kartaram Abhipam Vidya Kartaram Avya. Just hold on to the first line. It says Chatur Varnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. I created the fourfold caste. Caste is the term that we use for Varna, but it's not the proper word. Varna is Varna. I created the fourfold Varna, Chatur Varnyam, Maya Srishtam. I have created it. Guna Karma Vibhagashaha, based on the Guna and Karma. So what is the equation of Guna and Karma with the Varna? And obviously we cannot brush aside the question of birth-based caste, birth-based jati, birth-based Varna also in this. It has to be understood also. It's a very, very complex thing. Probably if time permits, we will take it up in the future class. Yeah, if there are any questions, we can take. Yeah, we hear the term Shuddha Sattva and Trans-sattva. What are these? Please explain in brief. It is the same. Shuddha Sattva is used in certain places, and trans-sattva that we use in English is referring to the same state where you go to the state which is beyond the Gunas, which is the state of self-realization. That means a state of being a Guna Atita. That is called as Shuddha Sattva, pure Sattva. So if you want to say Tamas is sleep, Shuddha Sattva is realization in that sense. So in the intermediary stage, when you are waking only, all these three gunas come into play in different ways. Whether a reaction and response can be distinguished. Yes, they can be distinguished. See, the thing is, when we are talking about the 3R traffic of life, you talk about receipt, reaction, and response. Just a minute, I'll see if I can put out the chart if I have. Yeah, so generally we talk about receipt, reaction, and response. Receipt is the stimuli coming from the world using the sense organs, and reaction usually happens at the level of the mind and intellect, and response is given out through the body, through the organs of action. So response is nothing but furtherance of the mind only, but you can take that response involves, maybe you shout at him using words, or sometimes response can be in silence also, that you are keeping quiet is also a response. But by and large, response is something which is a furtherance of reaction, and reaction is essentially at the thought level, at the emotion level, which is referring to our mind.
Poornam Adah Poornamidam Poornat Poornamudachyate Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.